بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه وقال تعالى في مقام آخر ولقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أملك عليك لسانك وليسعك بيتك وابكي على خطيئتك أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. MashaAllah, the masjid is empty. I wonder why. Dustin हो गए. अच्छा, रहमत का शर पूरा हो गया. अब माफी किसी को चाहिए नहीं. MashaAllah. It's amazing how, the things and this entertainment, it grips us to such an extent whereby we're even willing to forego these blessed moments inside of the masjid during this blessed month. I can understand maybe it's a one-off thing for some people, though I must admit that being a Liverpool fan myself, we do tend to get these finals quite often, maybe as often as we'd like to, but at the same time, I do feel for the Chelsea and United fans who don't often get to see these moments. But at the same time, I think it's important that we put things into perspective. And at the same time, it's important we get our priorities right. That's the main thing. Okay, and I'm sure you'll be faced with many occasions in your life where you will be faced with this dilemma where you need to give preference to something over the other. And at that time, I always do say that it's about turning towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making your heart attentive towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and sometimes asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. And I'm sure many of those that are not in the masjid, it's not as if they would have gone away from here not feeling or not having this feeling within their hearts that, I don't think I'm doing the right thing. But obviously the occasion and the moment is such, and obviously the whims and the fancies of our nafs are so strong upon us that we tend to sacrifice these moments inside of the masjid, and we tend to give preference and priority to actually probably the incorrect thing rather than giving preference to the correct thing. So on occasions like this, I think it's important that we do turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a dua that, our elders teach us all the time, and we should probably make this all the time, because like I said, life is all about making decisions. That's what it's all about. It's about making decisions. And when you are faced with the dilemma of making a decision, especially when it's an important one, making this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma khilli wa khtalli wa la takinni ila ikhtiyari, wa la, you please choose for me, you select for me, and do not subject me to my own selection and to my own choosing. Let it be that you divinely inspire me when it always comes to making decisions in certain aspects. Anyway, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all. And for those that do have this thought inside of their hearts and they would have had this play of emotions within themselves, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the tawfiq to make the correct decision on the next occasion, inshallah. And at the same time, like I said, about making sure that we get our priorities right, inshallah. The next topic that I'd like to now move on, and obviously having wrapped up with our previous subject of peer pressure, maybe just to start it off, because the actual topic in itself is actually more directed towards our youngsters, and there are many in our masjid alone that attend our masjid frequently who are at this age where they now need to make a decision with regards to who is going to be the ideal partner to join them for the rest of their lives. And they're soon going to be opening this chapter of completing their iman, from being free and single and being ready to mingle. They're now, mashallah, ready to find that partner in life, that they, inshallah, will be spending their lives with for the rest of their life, inshallah. Anyway, to start off, very briefly, inshallah, I'll try and keep it as brief as possible today. Whilst it remains the passion of every couple to enhance their relationship and to positively contribute to the union, it is rather tragic and unfortunate, and at times very even ironic, that the measures that we actually initiate and we supposedly take in order to achieve this positive relationship, actually the steps that we are taking, they actually totally contradict in achieving this goal, and is totally against the very sentiments of achieving this. If not, it actually sometimes exacerbates and even compounds to the problem in itself. Every person sat over here will agree that no person consults, or no human will take advice from a person that's actually a failure within society. Every person will look for the ideal role model that has achieved some kind of success. Every person will look for the ideal student. Every person will look to the successful politician. Every person will search for the prosperous businessman, so that it is them that advises them in order for them to achieve similar success. Yet many people nowadays especially, and we've become so habitual, that we actually study the lives and we read the lives of these so-called celebrities who even by their own admission are actually failures when it comes to their social and their domestic life, and especially when it comes to their matrimonial and their lives of marriage in itself. So if that is the case, then how can we actually use these people as our role models, and how can these people actually add value to our lives? It is not possible whatsoever. Rather, it is so important that we study the lives and the biographies of those people whom the Quran has declared to be as successful, and regarding whom an Arabic poet very eloquently says that the times that we live in, to actually find people of this nature has become very, very difficult, if not impossible. And the poet says very beautifully, whereby he says, "Hayhata hayhata an yati zamanu bimithlihi, inna zamana bimithlihi labakhilu." It is as though that with the passage of time moving on, and the times and the era that we are living in, the women of this time have now actually become barren in producing such individuals. And I refer to none other than Sahaba Kiram Ridwanullahi Ta'ala alayhim ajma'een. I often say, and I strongly believe that, as a believer, for this ummah to once again prosper, it has to reflect over its past glory. And it has to reflect over the methods that were adopted in those days of glory, in those days of success, in those days of prosperity, as to what were the reasons that those individuals living in those ages were actually able to achieve and acquire that glory, that prosperity, and how did they actually become so successful. And unless we do so, and unless we study the lives of our pious predecessors, the Salafus Salihin, and we study the golden era of the Sahaba, then to actually emulate and to bring forth those days of glory once again is, never mind difficult, it will literally be impossible. And hence it's so important that we actually, when it comes to navigating in our lives of marriage and in our matrimonial lives, we shouldn't look any further other than the lives of the Sahaba. And how did they conduct themselves in their social lives, in their domestic lives? And only then we will be able to emulate them and bring this same peace and comfort, this life of bliss and happiness within our matrimonial lives, within our lives of marriage as well. And for this reason, I'd like to, obviously narrow the life down of the Sahaba, and rather than obviously focusing on every aspect of their life, I'd like to focus on the social and the domestic lives of the Sahaba. Inshallah, we'll carry on from there, and inshallah, we'll talk about some examples of such individuals, such Sahaba, looking at their matrimonial lives, what were their life, why were they able to achieve such happy married lives. And don't get me wrong, sometimes when we look for the formula of a happy couple and a happy marriage, it's not that marriage which is devoid of all arguments. No, I beg to differ with that. A successful marriage will not necessarily be free of arguments and at times, quarreling and bickering. This is all part and parcel of marriage. Just as, one Maulana gives a very beautiful example, that a successful pilot is not one that avoids turbulence altogether. No, but one who actually is able to manage the turbulence whilst maintaining calmness within the cabin. That pilot that is able to maintain calmness in the cabin whilst passing through a passage of turbulence is the one that is actually a successful pilot. You will never ever find a pilot that will be able to fly and be able to avoid turbulence altogether. Likewise, marriages, at times you will hit a stumbling block. There will come a moment when you will differ in your opinions, when there will be arguments. However, the key word over here for the pilot and for the couple is managing it. So when we are able to manage these issues, inshallah, you'll find that it is that couple that will be a happy couple. It is that couple that will be within a happy and a successful relationship, as opposed to those that are not able to manage that turbulence, that are not able to manage those arguments. Then those people will not be in a happy relationship. So the definition of a successful marriage is one that is not totally devoid of arguments and differences. No, there will be differences, there will be arguments. However, it's a case of how you manage those arguments and those differences. So inshallah, we'll look at some practical examples of these tomorrow. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grant us all a happy marriage and a life of bliss and happiness within our homes. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.